federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who are preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
Each individual is going to have to make their calculation of the amount of risk that they want to take.
I knew that voice.
The topic of Elon Musk comes up. He has a lot of people quietly rooting for him to drive change here and shake things up.
A lot going on. Elon Musk declines a board seat. The FBI failed to convict the Whitmore would-be kidnappers, probably because they're all FBI. Fauci's back in the news and a bunch more on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is April 11th, the year of our Lord 2022, new you in 22. A lot of interesting stuff happened over the weekend. Elon Musk declined a board seat, Twitter CEO announced yesterday via Twitter. We'll get into the reasons why. That's actually a fascinating story. Also, the FBI failed to convict the Whitmer kidnappers, would-be kidnappers. Fauci's back in the news, but I want to get to this first because I feel like this is like this is one of those stories that we all kind of like jumped onto, and then it kind of fizzles out and you kind of fizzles from memory. You probably didn't hear a lot about it unless you watch Tucker religiously or watch any of your other big not right-wingy, but conservative media outlets. NBC covered it terribly, along with a bunch of other various platforms and networks. But the big story out of federal prosecution over the weekend was the idea that, remember those people who were attempting to kidnap Governor Whitmer of Michigan? Turned out that a bunch of them were FBI agents, and a bunch of the FBI agents that infiltrated the group that attempted to kidnap the governor of Michigan entrapped the people, or at least we think. We don't entirely know yet because the jury hasn't come out and said whether or not. It looks like the FBI screwed up the case or led them entirely along the way in the first place. I want to play this clip from Tucker Friday, in which Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, talks about this. Then we'll bring you up with a bunch of different stories. This will actually give me some time to pull up some other stuff. We had, believe it or not, technical difficulties. It's the deep state, I'm telling you. But we'll play this clip and then we'll discuss on the other side. Check this out.
Earlier today, Attorney General Dana Nessel was joined by officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who are preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me. If you break the law or conspire to commit heinous acts of violence against anyone, we will find you, we will hold you accountable, and we will bring you to justice.
We also learned that a lead FBI agent on this case was a political partisan and, in fact, a violent criminal himself.
These guys were yakking off on Facebook like we all do.
Yeah.
They went overboard. The FBI gets wind of it and starts leading these guys down the path. I don't know about the rest of the media, but I said this thing stunk.
Yeah.
Jury reached the same verdict, man. I mean, there's a difference between mouthing off and then the feds walking you to a case.
So, cut off a little bit of clip earlier there. So what Tucker was basically saying, and what that guy he had on was saying, shoot, I forget his name. It slips out of my mouth every single time. Was basically these guys were on Facebook making some outlandish claims or saying ridiculous things, as people do on Facebook. I don't know if you've been on the internet recently, but people on Facebook and Twitter and all of your other social media platforms generally don't hold their tongue very well. Then what it seems happened, the FBI got a hold of them, got them in a collective group and said, hey, we should kidnap the governor of Michigan. And the couple of them were like, okay, I guess we're doing that. The driver was an FBI agent. The person with all of the explosives was an FBI agent. A bunch of people involved were FBI agents, according to some of the reporting out. So this is from the New York Times. There was a couple different articles that I wanted to bring on just so you can see how other people are reporting this. New York Times headlines: 2 men acquitted of plotting to kidnap Michigan governor in high-profile trial. The acquittals, along with mistrial cases against other men, were significant setbacks for federal prosecutors who have promised to focus on domestic terrorism. That's the story they're going with in the New York Times. Not, hey, yeah, the FBI infiltrated and maybe entrapped some people into doing some things that they probably wouldn't have done without the FBI's infiltration. But that's not what the New York Times is saying. Juries on Friday acquitted 2 men, unable to reach a verdict on 2 others. So there were 6 people, I think, total indicted. 2 of them pled guilty very early on. Again, I don't know what their involvement was, but that's what happened there. The 4 that were still in their trial process, the federal jury acquitted 2 of them and set a mistrial for the other 2 because of how the FBI engaged in the entire process. NBC headline says this. Holy cow, listen to the headline here. The dangerous message sent by the Governor Whitmer kidnapping verdict. What? And then they go on to say this. This is, again, talking about more domestic terrorism. By eroding trust in law enforcement, the far right can continue to claim the January 6th insurrection, which is, we won't even go there right now, was nothing more than an exercise in free speech. This is an NBC headline. Finally, I guess the Wall Street Journal had this in their opinion piece about the matter. Jurors failed to reach a verdict on two other defendants, yada, 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 their names. So the judge declared a mistrial. 2 others had pled guilty and testified at the trial, which makes the verdicts more startling. Jurors may explain their doubts to the press, but one possibility is that they believed the defense claimed that the Federal Bureau of Investigation entrapped the men into taking steps toward the kidnapping that they never would have taken otherwise. That is from the Wall Street Journal opinion section, talking about, hey, it's possible. We don't actually know because we haven't talked to any of the jurors yet, but it's possible the jurors come out and say, yeah, the evidence was overwhelmingly clear that the FBI tricked them into doing things that they didn't want to do. Again, just for clarification here, I'm not pro-kidnapping governors or anything of that sort. But if the FBI leads people down an entire road of doing something that they wouldn't have done otherwise, that's a bigger problem than not facing domestic terrorism with enough oomph, says the New York Times and NBC. I want to get to this. This is actually fascinating. This is like this is a big story that people aren't, well, you need to know the full scope of it. Obviously, okay, just question it for those of you out there watching this. Most of you, there are a couple thousand of you watching this generally on Facebook. You're probably on Facebook if you're watching this across all of the Daily Caller platforms, across my pages, across all of these different places. If you're watching, you're probably watching on Facebook. Which, by the way, if you wouldn't mind, click the little like button, click the little subscribe button. The share button. Would really, really appreciate it. Helps us get to more people and keep doing what we're doing. So I'd really, really appreciate that. There's a couple thousand you watching. Not as many clicking the like button. But anyways, how many of you out there watching on Facebook, let me know in the comments section, have been put in Facebook jail at one point or another? Because there is a big free speech problem across all of your social media platforms. Twitter specifically has banned, everybody. The President of the United States, Charlie Kirk, is banned from Twitter. Currently, the Babylon Bee, currently banned from Twitter. Tucker Carlson, currently banned from Twitter. There was somebody else big that got suspended over the weekend. Jack Posobiec, TPUSA contributor, also says, he called Disney groomers, and he is now kicked off of Twitter for a potential period of time. So let's see. I've been put in Facebook jail about 50 times. I have too many times to count, over and over and over again. I've been in detention so many times. Seriously, I like all of these people saying, for a minimum of 90 days. Me too. So many people get put in Facebook jail for sharing stuff that they just want to again. So anyways, Twitter has a huge problem with that. Elon Musk, in mid-March, bought a 9.2% stake in Twitter, making him the largest shareholder. For reference, Jack Dorsey has 2%. The CEO has like less than 0.5%, I think. But basically, Elon Musk bought a huge portion of Twitter. Last week, the company said, hey, Elon, would you mind joining our board? We're going to give you a board seat on the Twitter board of 12 people. I don't know if I should make this joke. Elon Musk, I think, would be the first African-American to join the Twitter board. But he declined because of various reasons. On Sunday, the Twitter CEO tweeted this as a part of a bigger, longer statement. We have and always will value the input of our shareholders, whether they're on our board or not. He said in a tweet about the news, Elon is our biggest shareholder, and we will remain open to his input. Here's why I think, and this is again, I think from the New York Times talking about Elon not joining the board. Under corporate governance principles, board members are required to act in the best fiduciary interest of a company and its shareholders, which the Twitter CEO pointed out in his tweet on Sunday morning. He also said that Twitter's board has been clear of all risks of Musk's deciding to join as a director. Basically, he's not going to join the Twitter board because that one caps his ability to own more of Twitter. He has the money to buy the entire thing. I don't know about liquid cash, but he definitely has the capital to get over 51% and be the controlling partner in Twitter. Again, currently owns 9.2%. If he were to join the Twitter board, he would be capped at 14.9%. By not joining Twitter's board, Mr. Musk will no longer be bound by a previous agreement that he had signed with the company. Under a standstill agreement last week, he had pledged not to purchase more than 14.9% of Twitter's stock and not to take over the company. Uh-oh. That suggests Mr. Musk could now keep adding to his stake to the company. So there's that. There's a really interesting guy. I'll read his name when it comes up on the screen. He pulled it down from Fox News. He's a tech entrepreneur and capital investor. Really, really interesting dude who I've seen a million times and just can't remember his name right now. Talking about Elon Musk declining the Twitter board seat, saying that it's a pretty good thing. I think it's actually also pretty good. Check this out and we'll discuss on the other side.
I think he's going to be much more effective now as the top shareholder by far, driving change as a voice from the outside and potentially unconstrained with respect to how much he can actually buy. So I think this is actually a positive development. And the other thing I want to say, Ainsley, is over the last week, over the last few days, I've actually had an opportunity on unrelated matters to talk to some of the top venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. The topic of Elon Musk comes up. He has a lot of people quietly rooting for him to drive change here and shake things up. Mm-hmm. None of them will actually say it publicly, and that's exactly why he needs to be doing it, is we have this culture of fear in the Valley, in corporate America, and using shareholder power to be able to drive that change from the top, I think is actually one of the most promising ways to do it. So I'm really rooting for success here.
I think most Americans are happy about this because they want to see change over at Twitter. So why did the stock prices go down?
Then they go on about the Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Like that guy, he's actually very, very gives a lot of really solid input into the tech world and how it's going. So Elon Musk will not be joining the board at Twitter. I've got to talk about Fauci, but there's a couple things. I'm reading so many of you have been put in Facebook jail at one point or another. Some of you said you're still in it. I don't think that you can post comments as a part being in Facebook jail, but that's a topic for another time. So yeah, if you've been in Facebook jail, if you're currently in Facebook jail, let me know. Depending on where you're watching this via Twitter, YouTube, any of those other channels. Dr. Fauci was on ABC this week and said some things that we all already know. By the way, regarding the Whitmore FBI kidnapping thing, the Babylon Bee did a hilarious video. We're going to play that video at the end because we're going to be wrapping up and all that sort of stuff. But after we talk about that, stick around because the Babylon Bee's fake FBI video is freaking hilarious. But Fauci over the weekend on ABC this week said something that we all already know, and we've all already been doing for the last 18 months, probably 2 years. Finally, the Fauci, one, climbed out of his hole to be on the national media again, which I don't really think we need. Nobody really needs to hear from him, but he did it, so we're talking about it. He said some interesting things regarding personal choice and what people believe to be their own decision-making versus the government mandating people to lock down their businesses, get the shot, close down schools, all of those things. Dr. Fauci did a complete 180, it seems like, over the weekend in making his return to reality TV. Check this out from the Fauci, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
You know, John, I think Dr. Wen articulated that pretty well. There will be, and we've said this many times, even in our own discussions between you and I, that there will be a level of infection. This is not going to be eradicated, and it's not going to be eliminated. And what's going to happen is that we're going to see that each individual is going to have to make their calculation of the amount of risk that they want to take in going to indoor dinners and going to functions, even within the realm of a green zone map of the country, where you see everything looks green, but it's starting to tick up. So you're going to make a question and an answer for yourself, for me as an individual, for you as an individual. What is my age? What is my status? Do I have people at home?
Do I really need to say much here? I mean, this is what we've all been doing for the last 2 years. And finally, the Fauci, Dr. Fauci, the guy who led to the funding to fund the Wuhan bat flu virus lab in Wuhan, the guy who's been wrong about pretty much dang near everything, the guy who's double reversed more than John Kerry did in his election campaign versus George Bush. Wow, there's a reference. Dr. Fauci now saying, well, it should be up to everyone's own personal decision. Yeah, that seems normal. That seems reasonable. Dude, again, I could fly off the handlebars here and lose my ass over this. But what good would that do? Because Dr. Fauci is continuing to make a fool of himself on his own. Todd says he's a freaking criminal. Yeah, dude. Dump Fauci, Lion SOB, Trash Man needs jail. Holy cow, bunch of people here. Are you guys all in Facebook jail too? Yeah, I'm just curious. A bunch of people earlier in the show said, yeah, I've been put in Facebook jail for claiming that what Fauci said is incorrect, which turned out to be entirely true almost. Let me see. There's a really interesting article. I don't know if we have time to get for it today, but there's a big study that came out over the weekend. New York Post did a really good highlight on it. Of New York and California versus Florida in terms of their COVID outcomes, especially when you extrapolate the ages of the people that live in those particular areas. Obviously, people that say Florida had the most deaths. Well, they also had the most old people. And unfortunately, the Chinese bat fever affected most people that are older, or at least affected those people worse. Big study. Well, we'll probably get to more of that tomorrow, Mr. Fauci. But I did want to end it on this. This is one of the things I think is probably the most hilarious thing. One of the most hilarious things that the Babylon Bee has done. We were talking about earlier in the show how the FBI or federal prosecutors failed to convict anyone, really, for the planned kidnapping attempt of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She came out and made this big old stink of people are trying to kidnap me. I would guarantee you she's going to be using it in re-election campaign ads coming in November for her re-election campaign. People hated me so much they tried to kidnap me. But in case you missed earlier in the show, of the 6 people that were indicted, 2 of them pled guilty a long time ago. But of the 4 people that actually stood trial, 2 of them were acquitted, and the other 2 were declared a mistrial because of inconsistencies within the entire trial process, or at least I don't know if I'm using the right terminology. I almost went to law school. I didn't actually go to law school, so who knows. But given the fact that the overwhelming, I don't want to say overwhelming, given that a lot of people think the FBI entrapped those individuals in Michigan, The Babylon Bee a couple months ago came out with this hilarious video that I will play for you now and stop talking about it. I cut it down just for time, but listen, check this out. This is freaking hilarious. If you haven't already, click the little like button, click the little share button, because if anything, people need to see this because it's stupid funny.
The plan is simple. We break into the Capitol building, we infiltrate the government, and we kidnap the Speaker of the House. And this is Garth Henderson speaking.
Excellent. You get that? We got everything we need.
Everyone down on the ground, FBI! You're all under arrest!
I trusted you.
A squad of heavily armed FBI agents are on their way right now!
It's over.
Oh, it's over, all right. It's over.
For all of you, double cross.
A whole lot of foolishness.
I trusted you and I trusted you.
I don't like this.
You FBI scum! You're all scum! You'll never take us alive! We're the true patriots! Standing up for liberty and stuff! Wait just 1 minute. I knew that voice. Steve! Steve Crenshaw! You got me. All right. We got you right. We're all FBI agents if that hasn't been obvious! All right. FBI.
So essentially, they made a joke pointing fun at the fact that pretty much all of the people involved in this conspiracy kidnapping to kidnap the governor of Michigan were FBI agents. And slowly, one by one, if you just joined us, and I know a bunch of people were watching or just tuned in during that part, and they kind of like, what the heck are we watching? Yeah, everybody one by one said, no, I'm FBI. No, I'm FBI. Until it got to one guy who was like, holy crap, you guys have been leading me down this hole of entrapment, and ended up getting in trouble for it. That's going to do it for us today. I actually am really excited to tomorrow to talk about this big study out of don't know where the study's from. We'll get that to you tomorrow, but the New York Post did a great report on it. Let's see. Any other big things to talk about? Nancy Pelosi, I guess, still has COVID. Eric Adams has COVID. Muriel Bowser has COVID. I think like 17 prominent Democrats after a big Democratic shindig got the COVID, the Chinese CCP bat fever. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit more of that tomorrow. But yeah, that big story we'll get right into. Oh shoot, dang it! Tomorrow we're also going to talk about Russia getting kicked out of the UN Security Council. That's actually kind of interesting, given the fact that the UN is effectively useless, but made the right call here, I think. So we'll see what happens there. Let me see. If you haven't already given me a follow on any of your social media platforms, go ahead and do so, because I am hilarious at Jobob. Just type in Jobob pretty much anywhere you'll find me, especially Instagram. That's where I've got the biggest Actually, no, Facebook is the biggest following. Wow, yeah, they're competing. I post hilarious memes all the time, and they're super funny. So give me a follow anywhere you have social media. Let's see what's going on the rest of this week. I'm on OAN Stephanie Hamill tonight, so check it out if you got that channel. And then we've got a bunch of stuff coming up during the week. We will see you tomorrow with all of that good stuff and more, especially if the president gets to a microphone, which is our favorite type of day, when Joe Biden talks or Kamala Harris speaks, because then we get to ridicule them for it, because usually it's very bad. But such is the current news cycle. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless America.